This podcast provides a platform for our guests to share their experiences and inspire our listeners to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. As you listen, we invite you to explore how these concepts apply to your own story. You know what to do. Be great and be grateful. We're mic'd up with Mike DeChocho. Hey guys, my guest today is the master of first times and creator of the 365 First Challenge. That's first with an S. She's a serial entrepreneur, served in the Marine Corps for 24 years. She's a world traveler and lover of the outdoors. Welcome to the show, Ann Bernard.
Hey, Mike. Thank you for having me.
No problem. I'm so excited to be doing this. You and I met virtually, right? And we do a lot of these calls with our clients, prospects, friends, family, podcast guests. You and I have been working virtually for a long time. So we're currently in the quarantine. When someone's listening to this, I don't know if that's still going to be accurate. Well, possibly. This is going to launch sometime in early May. So we're possibly still in the quarantine when someone's listening to this for the first time. And why I share that is I think it's important. You and I met on LinkedIn, and you sent me a message and you were interested in what I was doing. And we talked about this show and getting you on, and here it is. It's finally happening.
Here we are. Yeah, just like that.
And it's important for people to hear that because I want to encourage people to use social media and platforms like LinkedIn to meet people that you don't already know. It's like going to that network event prior to coronavirus when we're all standing at a table. There's 60 people in the room, and we're with 3 people that we already know because we're comfortable, and there's 57 other people. So you weren't afraid to reach out to me, talk about the show, and here you are. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And, and it's a mutual thing, right? So I am definitely planning on having you on the first time storytelling
So
broadcast.
guys, off camera prior to the interview today, a few hours ago, I got a message from Ann and she invited me onto her show. So I'm really excited to do that.
Excellent.
And that's going to be 365 Firsts Challenge. Is that something that you started due to coronavirus? Like made you think about? Because I actually just started to think about asking people about what's a new skill that you learned while we're kind of stuck at home. Did you do something that maybe you wouldn't naturally do? Maybe you always wanted to read and you just haven't gotten back to reading. So now you're doing it more. Is that what the idea was, or did you have this going on for a while?
No, this started a long time ago. So there's already an app that's out called the 365 First Challenge.
Okay, very cool.
On the App Store.
Yeah.
But it came based off a 7-year journey. Well, it's been more than 7 years now, journey that I found myself on. And I ended up getting mobilized, and I was mobilized in Germany. And if you ever been so blessed as to end up living in Europe, it's so awesome because it's so easy to travel to different countries.
Right.
So as I was traveling in all these different countries, I was like, I'm in a new place. I should try something new. So I just started getting into this mindset of trying new things. And in the process, this amazing thing started happening to where my relationship with life shifted and changed. And I became, because I struggled a lot with life, and I battled depression and being suicidal and those type of things. And, life was a chore. Like literally I would tell people, people are like, well, I'm afraid of dying. I'm like, well, death is easy. Like it's going to be over. Like life is a struggle. And that's the type of words that I would use, my view on life. But when I started doing a lot of new things, that all shifted. I'm like, wow, life has so much to offer that I didn't even realize. And so when I came back to the US, I'm like, well, I don't need to be in foreign land to do new things. I can just start doing new things at home or wherever I found myself.
Yeah.
So I continued to do that. And when it became time to figure out what was next for me after a second time being mobilized, I wanted to do something. I am a serial entrepreneur, and I've always wanted to have an impact on people's life and help them lead better lives. And that's when kind of the 365 First Challenge started coming about. So this was last April. And since then, I've been shaping it. I got the app release, and I've really been trying to get the word out to people about how easy it is to have first times in your experiences and that you can do it at home. So
Mhm.
ironically, now that the COVID-19 pandemic has started and everybody's realizing, hey, I'm stuck at home, there
God
are
was
a
like, I
lot of
really dig this thing that Anne's doing, so I'm gonna let everybody experience it. Hey, guess what? You're all stuck at home.
yeah, it's like, but because we get stuck on our day-to-day
Yeah.
mindset, and this is breaking us out of it. But it's also what the 365 first challenge is about. Like, it's about exploring and discovering all that life has to offer. And it's not like a bucket list. You can
Mhm.
have big ticket item on there, absolutely, of course, but it's about maximizing what you gain out of living. Like,
Mhm.
looking at life and saying, there's so much for me to explore and do and share with other people. So right now, if you are, at home, stuck with your fam, stuck, it shouldn't be
Yeah, I know.
stuck. Like,
Stuck stuck is wanna
you're
use the word
appreciating,
stuck with your
yeah,
loved ones. It doesn't
you're
really go over well.
appreciating, you're appreciating the time that you have at home, but you
Yeah.
want to do different things together. And there's so much to do. So the app
Mhm.
helps you find all of those things. Yeah.
So is the app a community where you can see what other people are posting as well?
Not right now. So
Okay.
future
Is
iteration
that
will
the
have
idea
that.
behind it, where it's encouraging people to see people and it's only things that it's the first time ever trying it?
Yeah, well, so I have a lot of terminology around this. So
Yeah.
a new experience is always a first time, but a first time is not necessarily a new experience. So let's take hiking, for example. So
Yeah, I
let's
like
say
that. I
you've
think I
never been,
follow what you mean.
yeah. So let's say you've never been hiking, right?
Mhm.
So you're gonna have to go buy your first pair of hiking boots. Well, if you've never bought a pair of hiking boots, well, that's a first. And
Sure.
then you're gonna go on your first hike, and then you're gonna have your first peak, and then you might have your first overnight hike, and then you might have, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so those, you're still hiking, but you're having different types of first
And then you
times
can go
within
hiking
that.
again, but so it's your second hiking experience, but it could still be a first time experience hiking.
Correct, because it's a different type of hike, it's a
Yeah,
different kind of
something might
experience.
happen for the first time
Right.
that
And
didn't happen
then,
the first.
right.
I get it.
So some new experience you're gonna do once, you'll never do again. Some you will continue to do, and then you'll continue to grow within that,
Mhm.
whatever that thing is. And the beauty is, so a lot of this too, it's about you're releasing all those good chemicals in your mind. So when
Yeah,
you when
endorphins.
you yeah, and dopamine, which
Uh-huh.
keeps you motivated, keeps you inspired, and makes you feel good when you reach your goal, when you anticipate doing something new. So I'm really out to have like the ultimate self development app, that platform that allows you to continue to grow and to
Mhm.
continue to enjoy life and get more out of life and having
Mhm.
fun doing it.
I'm gonna ask you this then, on the topic of firsts, what would you say are some of your favorite firsts that come to mind, either personally or maybe something that someone posted where it just really inspired you? Like, "Ah, I love that they shared that," and you can see some personal growth happening. Does anything come to mind when you think of something that really sticks with you?
So one of the things for me, one of the things I've
Mhm,
really started getting into is is playing board games for the first time. So learning a new board game and then playing
mhm,
it, because it made me realize just how how much it compares to life, like how quickly you can learn something, how quickly you can master it and figure, how everybody else is playing it. So I'm a psychology major, so anything
okay.
that engages me with how people think and do things. And I hadn't played really board games since I was a kid, because I was like a really bad sore loser. So kind of I just kind of stopped playing games.
Yeah, yeah.
So now I started exploring that. And the other thing for me with this journey that I've been on, it's been about going into the arena and the areas that I had self limitations around. So, sports, not a problem. Like
Mhm.
anything that's athletics, outdoors, I'll jump into it.
That's where you're
Now, you
comfortable.
you want me to do crafts, you want me to do something like more artistic or music, and I'm like, I'm not sure that's my thing. And
Mhm,
it's been great, like exploring that. And so right now I'm doing the first time storytelling,
mhm.
and a friend of mine came on and he told the story of his first time going bungee jumping and how that really opened up his world because as he was about to do it, he realized, I don't want to do this anymore. And then it was too late. Like his body was in motion. And then, it taught him the lesson that,
He went though, right? He jumped.
exactly, get yourself into motion. And then it doesn't matter if you want to do it again. If you have enough momentum, you're going to follow through and you're going to do it.
Yeah.
So it is really amazing how just different things,
That
impact
applies
us
to
and make
business
us.
too, right? You get that
Absolutely.
first momentum, and then they call it the flywheel. Once it's
Yeah.
actually rolling, it takes forever to stop. Once you build all of this positive energy into something, you really get it moving.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's all these life lessons and experiences in doing things
Mhm.
that you've never done before. And you discover so much about yourself in the process. I mean, that's why I say it is going on a journey of first time in your experiences. It's the
Mhm.
ultimate self-development process.
The word journey just came up, and you have a program called Maximize Your Journey. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so the Maximize Your Journey program is based on going on that journey and getting the most out of it.
Mhm.
So doing first time in your experience, like I kind of touched on some of the things, it's really great for your self-awareness. So it helps to raise your self-awareness. It's
Mhm.
also awesome to become more spontaneous, becoming more open-minded, ensuring that you have that growth mindset, developing you more confidence, facing your fears. And like when I say it's the ultimate self development process, it is. So the Maximize Your Journey program is a 6-week program where myself and some other coaches, we go through and we teach you how to use the journey to really maximize your development and
Mhm.
understand that through first times in your experiences that you can continue to grow. So I have a saying, do what you've never done before to become who you always wanted to be. So that teaches
Yeah.
you how to do that.
I love that. I love that line because how are you ever going to achieve something that you're looking at and you're like, man, I really want to do that? Well, the common denominators and the things that that person or whatever it might be, the definition of it, there's a lot of things there, core values that maybe you didn't experience yet. So you need to go learn how to do those things to get into that level, right? And
Exactly.
I try to be careful to not put everything on a pedestal like that. But at the same time, if there's this level that you want to get to, you can't just look at it in the current moment. You have to look at the ladder of things that you need to do in all the different rungs that you need to climb,
Yeah.
experiences, adversity that's going to hit. It's inevitable when you're an entrepreneur, right? You're going to overcome a lot of that. So we talked about uh, I just mentioned the word adversity, but I said core values. And the thing that comes to mind is I know you're a 24-year Marine, and there's a lot of great developmental core values. I know that because two of my guests, and I started my show in November, not even a year ago, and two of my guests had been Marines. And I know the saying is once a Marine, always a Marine, right?
Yep,
Can you
absolutely.
tell us about some of the core values you developed during your time as a Marine and how that really helps you as a coach and how your clients benefit from that?
So, that's a good question. How to frame that? I mean, obviously, honor, courage, and commitment are we
Honor,
live
honor,
yeah, honor.
courage, and commitment are the big
Yeah,
three.
we live on those, and then integrity is a very big thing in the Marine Corps.
Hmm.
For me, the Marine Corps was well. Thankfully, I'm still in the reserves. It's been it's it was a lot of challenges and it pushed me and like well, I had an experience when I was a kid where I learned to face all my fears. And so I joined the Marine Corps ready to face anything that was going to come my way. But a
Hmm.
lot of things, this was 24 years ago. Things were very different back then, especially as a female Marine. And like
Yeah.
standing up for myself was a big key to ensuring that I was true to myself. Like integrity meant integrity to me. Integrity to the Marine Corps, to the country, to the service that I serve, and so on and so forth. But it's integrity to me as well. So I always face the challenges head on, like no matter how difficult and tough and challenging they were.
Hmm.
And I think, that's something that I bring into everything that I do. But what I'm seeing now is that, different people need easier ways to find that power in them.
Hmm.
And it's a little bit what the 365 First Challenge is about and everything that I do, so that instead of having to face struggles, instead of having to face adversity, instead of like negative things, because another thing, especially being from the military, and I've lost a Marine to suicide. And like I said, I've struggled with it myself. Like for some people, too much adversity, there's no tomorrow. So
Hmm.
I don't like the saying that, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's a really, really stupid saying, because it
Hmm.
kills a lot of people. Like a lot of people, it they don't know how to get through whatever is killing,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
killing them. So I'm going really roundabout way of answering your
No,
question,
you're
but
not. I think it's good.
I
We're
think,
talking through it. We're talking through it.
uh,
Tell us about,
I,
so when those moments in the Marines, and obviously, like you just said, adversity hits, and there's things even when you're in reserves, right? Or if someone's out of the Marines, how does that work? I guess it's just me being, maybe I'm not educated in it, but um, like if you decide to get in, would you consider it civilian lifestyle, or like how do you get out of the Marines? And you know what I'm saying?
so for
Am I
me,
asking the question correctly?
yeah. So for me, it's been very interesting. So I did
Yeah.
10 years on active duty. I turned 18 in boot camp, did 4.5 as an enlisted Marine. I got picked up from the Meritorious Commissioning Program.
Mhm.
So I went from being a sergeant to driving across country, going OCS, and 10 weeks later, I'm a second lieutenant. And so that was an interesting transition and experience in of itself. And
Wow.
when so I was when I during the when the Iraq War first broke out, I was
Mhm.
trying to get to Iraq and they wouldn't send me. And so I dropped my resignation papers because they wouldn't send me to war.
Wow.
And eventually I got
Were
to
they
go to
doing
Iraq,
that
but I
to protect you?
no, it was just the unit that I was in was not a deployable unit. It's also like the time in your career where you're supposed to fit certain billets and the timing was off. But
Sure.
I had a hard time accepting, like, I don't care
You
if I'm
wanted to
5 years
go and
from
they're telling you you can't
exactly.
go, and you're
And
out there
I'm
saying, "I'm put me in, put me in."
exactly, single, no family, and I'm ready to go. Like, put me in. But so they ended up sending me to Iraq, and I came back, but I
Thank
still
you for
got
your
out.
service, by the way.
Thank you.
Meant to say that
Um,
right in the beginning.
so so I came back and I got out because I didn't want to pursue my entrepreneurial dreams. And for 3 years I went after it and I failed and I lost everything. I mean, I'm broke, lost my house, and I'm basically like homeless. And a friend had to lend me money so I could rent a room. And another friend was like, "Hey, you're still in the inactive ready reserve." And I'm like, no, I'm not. It's been 3 years. I haven't done anything with the Marine Corps. It's like, yeah, you're still in the IRR. Turns out he was right. And so I got mobilized. So there's a way to get mobilized. So over the next 10 plus years, I did another 6 years on active duty, being mobilized here and there for a year, 2 year, different timelines.
Does that just
And
mean that you're restricted to a certain area for a period of time? Is that basically
now,
the definition?
so uh, there's different reserve there's different reserve billets, but quite honestly, as a reservist, I've had a lot more freedom to take different billets. But what ends up
Okay.
happening is I get a call from someone who knows my reputation, and they're like, "Ann, what's going on right now? Do you want to come in and fill this billet?" And usually, I end up having to go fill billets where things were not being done right. So it
Hmm.
ends up being kind of stressful for me because I'm like
So you can
the
get a
fix
phone
it.
call after this interview, and you can go and be in the reserves again for a moment?
I could get mobilized. Yeah. So right
Yeah.
now I'm sitting in
Wow.
the inactive ready reserve. So, but I'm pretty much ready to drop. I can retire. So I'm pretty much ready to drop my papers. I'm not, to be
Wow.
honest, I don't know why I haven't done that yet, other than just been too busy building the business.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It still brings you joy or you fulfillment.
No. So
Yeah.
my last set of orders is what kind of brought me back to the entrepreneurial path, because I was like, if
Yeah.
I'm going to work this hard, it's going to be for myself,
Okay.
because,
It has to be
and
connected to something you're fulfilled in doing, that you're
yeah,
serving the
because,
world. I could tell that about your personality. You want it to be
yeah.
serving the world.
And
Yeah.
And the thing is, I do have an entrepreneurial spirit. And when I put the uniform back on, I'm a lieutenant colonel now, and the lieutenant colonel has to take, you know, take over my body and my mind. And I can only do that for so long, where the entrepreneur has to come back out. And the Marine Corps is not very conducive to an entrepreneurial mindset. So then I end up clashing with, my
Yeah.
environment. And
Because
then
there's a
it's
lot
just
of organizational, do it this way. This is the
exactly.
only way.
Exactly.
Can't go outside of the box.
Instead of think
Yeah.
outside the box, be more efficient, be more productive. And I'm all
But you
about
learned
efficiency and
honor,
productivity.
courage, commitment, and those things are three great core values that you can put into business, right? And you can put that into your family, and you can put it into your own personal values and core.
Yeah. I have to say though, the entrepreneurial journey taught me so much more than the Marine Corps ever taught me.
Wow.
There's nothing more challenging, more difficult, more heartbreaking, more
Hmm.
crushing than
I
becoming an
understand it.
entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I'm in the coaster myself, and I know good times are phenomenal, and then there's those days that gut punch you, and it's like, but you still, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, and it sounds like you're that same way, right? Where you just have something. There's no question about like in your heart about doing what you're doing for a bigger purpose, and I can't give up on that. You know what I'm saying? No
Yeah,
matter what.
no,
Like,
I agree, but
I
it's
know that
definitely
that's my
very,
purpose on being here, and if I'm not doing that, then I feel like that's a huge sin to be doing something else and not serving the way I'm designed.
yeah, but it's true. But as a tech startup entrepreneur, and right now, like I was going down one path, and
Mhm.
with what's happening, I was it was time for me to raise my first seed round.
Yeah,
And now, the difficulty in doing that just increased tremendously. So it's just, your runway of how much money you have and how
yeah.
long can you keep alive. And I have technology that I want to keep developing. The weight of it,
Mhm.
if you really spend too much time thinking about it, can be pretty overwhelming, because the vision is so massive. So it is, the vision is a double-edged sword. It is what keeps you moving, but it's also, it can actually discourage you, because it's so big. Like, I know
Mhm.
for me, my vision is so big. Like, I literally, in this lifetime, I want to raise human potential. Like, that's my mission statement.
Raise human potential.
Right.
Mhm.
Within, like, my lifetime. Like, I want to develop the platform that is responsible for raising human potential.
Can you explain
So,
that? I understand what that means, but um how do you set up a system so you can check on that actually happening? Like, when you say human potential, you mean the entire human race?
yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I think I am obsessed, like I said, with technology. So I
mhm,
keep track of what's happening with AI, with machine learning, with
mhm.
robots, right? What's going to happen to the job market. And I do believe that a big portion of society will be left behind, because you know they'll adjust using the technology, but they will get replaced by the technology, and the level of conversation, interaction with each other is going to get elevated by that technology.
Hmm.
So the status quo will
Mhm.
no, it's not going to cut it. Whether it's 5 years or 10 years from now, the bottom line is the status quo will not cut it. Human beings have to elevate their potential. We have to, like, start we everybody like, still struggles with the same old issues. So whether it's
Mhm.
confidence issues, facing your fears, dealing with your past,
Mhm.
like, it's holding us back,
Yeah.
right? So we need to be
Mhm.
able to process that a lot faster, and then
Mhm.
move on from it, and be like the creative human being, the creative beings that we are, and
Yeah.
innovate and adapt and just shift. But not like a small percentage of us, but a larger percentage
Mhm.
need to do that shift.
Everyone is
That
thinking in that growth
Right.
mindset, and increasing skill level and moving forward, right? And being
Exactly.
maximizing your physical and mental potential, right?
Correct. And then embracing life, right? Because if there is a future, there is a right now, if you look at the future, it can diverge in like so many different ways. But there is a future where we are free. We have a lot more time to ourselves, where our lives are not, and our lives and identity are not around the work that we do. So a lot of people, 2008, when the market crashed, people lost their job, people lost their identity, they lost who they were. Again, suicide
Mhm.
rates went up and depression went up because so many people are tied to that instead of tied to like the being that they are and the things that they love to do and explore and discover, and they know how to like live life, and it's not tied to the job that they do. So
Mm.
it's also about that, because if you provided that freedom, then you can turn around and be like, dude, I
Mhm.
am ready to live and I know how to do it. But it's incredible how people just don't know how to live life.
You mentioned that there was one moment, you spoke on it earlier, and I just want to revisit that. Was that the moment, something that happened in your past? Was that when you realized you wanted to start 365, or was that when you wanted to start as an entrepreneur in general? Can you speak on like whether it was a light bulb moment or more of a gut moment where you just knew that something was in you? It's
For
about
the
talking about adversity that you had a
So I grew up to entrepreneurial parents. So
okay,
that was always in my blood, and I was
okay,
always thinking of business concept. That's always been
cool.
my thing. Human, like exploring human nature, making myself a guinea pig. It's always been also my thing my entire life.
Did your
But
parents make you try things? Be like, oh, we'll see if it works for her.
no, no, but I think because of the incident that I had where I started facing my fears, like I became
That's
fearless.
what it was.
So
You said, "I faced my fears for the first time." What was that moment? Do you mind sharing it?
yeah. So one of my chores, I was about 9 years old. One of my chores, I had to clean the downstairs bathroom. And if you're familiar with clean the bathrooms,
Mm.
spiders like to hang out in bathrooms. And I was so afraid of spiders, like most kids are. And so it's one afternoon, and I'm cleaning, and that bottom of the toilet, the commode, and there was a spider, and I just spazzed out, just went nuts, screaming and yelling, out the bathroom. My stepmom came running down because she thought I had hurt myself. And I told her there was a spider, and she was like, no, she was not having it. She locked me in the bathroom with the spider. So I went even more just hysteric. I was just crazy and trying to get out, and she was not letting me out. And that in the middle of that hysteria, a voice talked to me, and to me, it was God. And he said, you can be trapped by your fears, or you can be freed by facing them. And so, like
That
a
you heard
calm,
that in your voice at 9 years old? Or
yep.
in your head?
So, yep. So a calm washed over me. I killed the spider, and I
Ah!
was set free. And I
That's
walked out of that bathroom, and I'm like, I'm going to face my fears. And as I got older, it became, I'm going to chase my fears.
hmm.
And I got to the point where there's like, I'm a leap head first kind of person, and sometimes it
Yeah.
works out, sometimes it doesn't, but I always know I'm going to make the best out of it. Like, I'm not afraid to do anything. But I'll say this, because there's a lot of people that promote like becoming fearless, and
Mhm.
obviously it served me well and I agree with it. However, it's not the end all to be all. Being open minded and being fearless are key, because being fearless did not drive me towards doing things I had never done before. It's going on the journey
There
of
could be
first time new
fearlessness
experiences.
that's also carelessness. It's just like, I see some of these guys, they're jumping from building to building to see how many YouTube hits they can get. You see these guys, like, so they're being
Yeah,
fearless with no ropes. They're jumping from platform to platform. That could be obviously fearless, but that's not necessarily what we're saying is constructive.
correct.
That's not
Although
constructive.
although I never passed judgment on that, because somebody is well trained and still did the risk management. So I mean, there's some
I
things where
appreciate you
people,
putting me in my place on that. I'm not trying to like, if that's what
yeah,
brings someone happiness, I'm not telling people what to do and what not to do, but I'm just saying that that's a level of fearlessness that's different, a little bit different than we're talking about starting up a
correct, yeah.
business or kind of getting involved with something before you have all the answers. Because who's going to have all the answers and then and be able to have a checks and balances if you don't actually do them to know if they're working or not working.
Right. But I mean, but part of so one of the things that I did learn was to do more research. So that's actually why I started the Expert Advice for Your First Time podcast, because
Oh.
I do believe in do your homework before you do something for the first time to increase your level of success in it.
Mhm.
But at the same time, not knowing, like the biggest thing that people fear is the unknown. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm constantly putting myself in the, like, literally, that's my comfort zone is being in the unknown because that's where
You're
like I like
comfortable
to
being
be.
uncomfortable.
I love being in that space because that's where I really get to like be who I am. Like
Mhm.
I'm not that way. I'm not putting up any fronts. I'm not like I'm raw. This is who I am is in the unknown. It's doing something I've never done before. It's being a student. Like I guess because I've been doing new things for so long, it's about rewiring yourself too, right? So
Yeah.
doing new things, you do neuroplasticity. So I've rewired my brain to where it really lights up when I
Mhm.
do things I've never done before. And
Mhm.
I love it. I mean,
What's
talk
one new
about
skill that you learned during the quarantine where you were kind of cooped up at home? Did you learn anything new that you feel you wouldn't have learned prior?
no, so I wish. That's the one negative of this dang pandemic is that I'm not getting to do as many first things because I started more initiative to help other people. And
Uh-huh.
it's really killing my time to do things I've never done before.
Yeah.
So that's ironically has been like a big drawback for me,
Well, you know
which
what? I said it, and now you're thinking about it, you're reflecting on it, and you can do something about it, right?
yeah, well, I've been thinking every day. I've been thinking about it because I hate the fact that it's been so long since I've done something new.
You started 365. You have it's multiple podcasts, right? There's two different shows that you're on.
So it's one podcast. So it's
Okay.
the 365 First podcast,
Okay.
any podcast player. And then I do the first time storytelling live Facebook.
Okay.
So
So
it,
it's
it goes live, yeah, at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 Eastern
mhm.
on the 265 First Challenge Facebook. I go live. And then some of those stories end up on the podcast. But
Okay.
it's five stories a week. And they also end up on my YouTube channel, on the 365 First YouTube channel.
And someone's going to check that out. Is that where they would go? Is 365 firsts with an S on it and then challenge.com? Is that kind of the hub
Uh,
to find it?
no, it's actually not the hub for it.
Okay.
It would go on Facebook. So
Okay.
Facebook / 365 First Challenge is
Okay,
where
cool.
you would find where you would, and then the upcoming guests. And it's been a lot of fun. So the guests come on, just so you
Mhm.
know, when you come on, you tell a first time story. Then
Yeah.
we play the first time lightning round. So I'll give you
Okay.
10 different first time options and you'll tell me whether you've done it are interested in doing it, and then we tell some more stories. And
Yeah.
then I also do a daily prompt. So on the 265 First uh, social media accounts, if you go there every day, there's a
Mhm.
prompt for you to tell a first time story. So it's one of the things
That's
with the
cool.
COVID-19 that I started because it's very good for our mindset, for our spirits, for our well-being to
Mhm.
reminisce on the things that we've done. So there's a prompt so you can tell the story with your family, grow closer, share more about who you are. And
Mhm.
yeah, so you will play the prompt. Yeah.
I love it. Hey, you had a recent post on Twitter it was a day or two ago I saw, and it said your programming might be so jacked up that you seek out ways to confirm and validate your negative bias, similar to what we were talking about earlier. Why do you feel someone would do this, and how can you help our audience improve their mindset around that?
Yeah, so that's our human nature is both wonderful and horrible.
Hmm.
And right now, especially with what's happening, or anytime we find ourselves in a stressful situation or in fear, we go out and we go find information that validates our fear. So we actually feel more comfortable with our fear and then we feel more of our fear, and that's does not serve us. It releases more cortisol in your brain. And obviously it mobilizes you. It's not
Hmm.
it's not it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So what you need to do is to understand the fears that you're feeling and then start tearing them apart. Why do you feel this fear? What is it about? People are actually afraid of things that have never happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
So like being afraid of sharks. So you don't want to go in the water because you're afraid of sharks. Well, you ever been
Yeah.
beaten by like if you've encountered a shark, it can understand you having that fear. The fear of public speaking is a really big one, right? Everybody's afraid of it, but most majority of people have never done it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then what is it about? Is it because you heard of the stories? And don't, if you have heard stories that make you afraid, then what's your behavior? Do you
Mm-hmm.
find more stories that confirm that, or do you go to find things that go against, you know, what your belief system is driving you to? So it goes back to having, you need to have a really high self level of self awareness so that you
Mm-hmm.
understand what you seek out. But it is our human nature to actually seek out what goes against our negative biases to like confirm those fears to make us like we want to feel at the end of the day what we want is feel validated,
Sure.
and we want to validate our fears so then they're justifiable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. So it's almost like a mind trick that people play on themselves to, and I think we're talking about fears, but I think it's also people do it on smaller things. It doesn't have to be a big item task of the day, but it could be validating in their head why they didn't get 3 tasks done. Well, I did this, or I had a nice phone call earlier, so I still feel pretty good about the day. So I'm not going to do 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go watch a movie right now or something. Take my foot off the gas, right? And they start to like try to validate different things. So I think it can be on smaller tasks, and it could be very large fears that someone has. And I personally feel that a lot of that is kind of built into us in our society. Now, where is home for you? You're in Canada,
Like
right?
no, so no, I'm originally from Canada, but no, I'm in
Mhm.
Las Vegas right now.
Oh, you're in Vegas. That's right. Okay, so you're in Vegas. I'm in Western New York, Buffalo, New York, and great community. And so the community here is a big part of our character and culture. Community and the immediate resources around us, whether it's our family. It kind of starts as our family ring and it goes out, right? The classroom, when you're a kid, there's a lot of developmental things that happen in your classroom, and I feel like that kind of gets a little bit beaten out of a kid over time, is like their ability to not be so fearful, right? That's why you see a kid like walk up to water and they're not afraid of it because they don't even really know what it is. They're just willing to go test it out. That's why you got to be careful with a baby next to a
So
pool. But then
yeah,
eventually everything, you see a kid who's now like 16 and they're like tiptoeing through life a little bit because of all the things that they're told. Don't go in the water, there's sharks or this or that, right?
correct. A lot of fears are passed on by the parents, so that's why as a
Don't
parents there
start a
is
business. It's risky. I tried it and I lost all my money in a month.
right.
Don't ever
It's
do that, kid. And then it's like that kid could have been the next Steve Jobs.
right. And but it's still like you should never blame an outside force though. It's
Sure.
still on you
It's
once
internal.
you're right, once you're more grown up to come to having that self-awareness and realizing who you are.
Mhm.
But you touched on a good point. So one of the benefits of having a lot of first time in your experiences that it connects you back with your childlike mindset.
Mhm.
And, courage can be difficult to come by. Curiosity, however, can be a bit easier to come by. And if you're curious about life, if you're curious about things, because that's why kids do things and aren't afraid because they're curious. So if you can
Mm.
just tap back into your curiosity, then that's going to help you overcome your fears because you're going to be more curious than you're going to be fearful. So you're not going to need courage if you have a greater level of curiosity.
That is probably one of my that not it's not probably that was one of my favorite sound bites of doing this podcast since I launched. That was very well said. So thank you for
Thanks.
giving that wisdom. It's so true though. Curiosity, like what are you doing or learning? Are you trying new things? Are you just doing the same thing 365 times and then next year you're going to complain that life isn't any better or different? Sometimes it could get worse because you might take some steps forward and 6 steps backwards. But
Yeah.
the curiosity, at least you're learning, you're developing, You're
You're
moving.
exploring, you're
You're exploring. Like,
discovering, you're growing.
otherwise you're just gonna have dust on you, and you're gonna start to turn green. Like,
Yeah.
you got to be moving and doing things, right?
So one of the things that happened to me, so I journal, and I have, decades worth of journal. And sometimes what I would do is I would sit down, pick 4 or 5 journals of, whatever years, and I would go to certain dates, and then I would read what happened on that date. And it started just repeating itself and repeating itself. And I'm like, what's up with this? Like, every year is really like the one before. And I'm finding myself right back. A lot might happen, but who I am, finding myself right back to where I was before. And I'm reliving the same
Hmm.
conditions, even though my circumstances might be changing, which means I'm not changing. And now, since I've started my journey of first time in your experiences, that has completely shifted because I continue to grow. I continue to change. And I didn't want to be on this repeat loop. And that's why, like, my mission is to break people out of that repeat loop and increase their potential. We just got to get out of that. Yep.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay. This is something I
Okay.
haven't done yet. So talk about firsts. This is a first for me asking this question, but what is one thing that you can share with our audience that most of your business connections would not know about you? So if it's someone's connected like I am with you on LinkedIn and didn't have this conversation, what's something that maybe they wouldn't know about you that your best friend would know?
Ew. I am so open about my life. And it's a tough one just
Yeah.
because
You put it all out
I
there, right?
I do put it all
Well, do you
out
have
there.
it could
So
be a hobby, it could be just anything crazy. Something you love to do that maybe we didn't talk about yet.
mm, I honestly, there's nothing that I don't put out there.
How about this? Is there something that you've been thinking about recently that you wanna do that you haven't done yet?
Well, one of the big things that I want to do that is going to, like I said, I don't have comfort zone, but it's going to push me out of it, is I want to learn to fly a plane.
Okay,
And
there you go.
yeah, so I'm not, it's, so I'm not very mechanical in nature. And when I think about flying a plane, the one thing that's probably going to bring you down is a mechanical problem or issue.
Sure.
So when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I am going to be strapping myself in potentially to what's going to, bring me down to my death. But I'm perfectly okay with
Yeah,
that
but you
because
wouldn't do it by yourself until you had hours and hours with an expert by your side, right?
correct, but at the end of the day, you still might face some sort of mechanical failure. But then I talked to some people and like, well, when you're in a smaller plane, you can actually just take the aerodynamics and you know make it to the ground.
Smoother, yeah.
So yeah, so but it is one of those, and that's why I'm really looking forward once we're out of this to doing that and learning
That's
how to
awesome.
do it and
Mhm.
yeah. So, but most people, if you know what's on my list, you kind of knew that was
They would know
that was
you're
on
in
the
interested in
list.
it. So is
Yeah.
aviation something that you thought about even when you were younger too? Something that you were interested in?
No. So everything. So my 40th birthday, I jumped out of a plane, went skydiving, and that was the last thing that was on my like when I was a kid list, like
Sure.
that over time. And I mean, I had done so much more than even what was on my list.
Uh-huh.
And so I told the guy, it happened to be his birthday too. So the guy that I was attached to in the tandem jump, and I was like, dude, if we don't land, I'm good to go. Like I've done everything that I ever wanted to do. But now, like, what does like really drive me is being back in the entrepreneurial game, and I don't have any regrets, but I do have ghosts. So having failed as an entrepreneur in the past, like it, like I get kind of ticked off, like if I can say that on the air.
Sure.
I want to make it this time around. It's not like truly failure is not an option. I have to figure this out, and I'm willing. I was not back then. I didn't realize I was not willing to do everything that I need to do this go round. There's nothing I
Mhm.
won't do just because there's
That's
nothing
a
I won't do,
that's a great
period.
point though, because even though it could be written on paper as a failure, you've taken things you learned from it and you're applying it today. It's not really a fail. It's only a failure if you gave up right after it happened. I personally do believe that it's not, although that business may have not gotten to the level you wanted it to, but you're not personally a failure. So
Oh
the
yeah,
business
like
may have
I'm
failed,
yeah,
but
it's
that doesn't
completely
mean that,
different.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I have no like I get that a lot though. People are like want to justify like, dude, I failed. Like it doesn't bother me. Like
Yeah.
it's not holding me back. It's not it
But it's way
now.
better than you never starting.
Yeah, exactly. Like I it will never like literally nothing's gonna stop me from taking the jump. I will
Yeah.
constantly continue to take the leap, continue to take the jump,
Yeah.
learn as I go. Um, it gets easier because you know more, but then you
Mhm.
always reach. That's the thing as an entrepreneur, you're always going to reach that point where you're out of your depth. You're like, nope, not used to this.
Mhm.
But the beauty of what I do is
Mhm.
that I have trained my mind. I've trained my brain to learn a lot faster. So the more things that you learn, you become a better learner, the faster you learn. So
Mhm.
my ability to learn because of that is much greater. So doesn't take me a lot of time to be like, okay, now I know what I need to do. Let's apply it and let's go.
Yeah. If you can wrap up one statement or one thought to help inspire our audience to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams, what would that be?
It would be that it's a journey that's absolutely worth it. I mean, the ups, the down,
Mhm.
it's living. Like you have to live the purpose. When people are like, "What's the purpose of life?" It's to live it. And the way that you live it is you have to go out there and you have to do those things that you dream about, that you're passionate for, and to know that it doesn't matter what the outcome is. You are going to grow, you are going to learn, you
Mhm.
are going to survive it, you are going to get over it. It's just, it's all about having that right mindset and just going for it and reaching out to people who have been there, listening to these type of shows, and
Mhm.
find continue to grow the right mind, that growth mindset, that open mindset that you need to make all
Mhm.
these amazing things. It's just it's not the outcome, it's the act of doing it.
Yeah. Trust the process, right? And be in love with the process too, because even though those hard days are there, if you're doing what you do feel on purpose to do, right? One of my recent guests, Steve Nazarian, talks about the importance of why businesses are doing a particular thing, right? So he calls it the best why. Um, and it's just being purpose driven. His thing is branding and marketing, being on purpose. And I think internally, every person needs to really get to that core why. And when you know your why and you have those hard days, you still know I'm pushing through because I have this bigger thing that's going to cause me to get there. Blood, sweat, and tears.
But yeah, I agree with that. But the why is to live. Like, if you can't find any other why, make your why living and getting everything that life has to offer. Like
Mhm.
life, it's even kill. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter who you are, where you come from, what your background is. Life has so much to offer you.
Mhm.
You just have to engage with life, and it's gonna offer you things.
Mhm.
So I think if you focus on that, then you are going to get through whatever you need to get through because you're going to be in this partnership with life and discovering and embracing it.
Yeah. How can you encourage our listeners if someone maybe they are struggling or it could be depression, it could be just struggles or adversity, and they're just, they're having a hard time finding their why or finding quality of life, right? You talked, number one thing is being fulfilled by living and actually living and not doing all these tasks and just being busy. I know a lot of people that are busy, myself included, and sometimes I get really frustrated at the end of a busy day when I know I was running around like crazy, even if that's at home, going around task, call, this, that, and the other thing. Then I'm like ready for bed. I'm reflecting. I'm like, I didn't get all this stuff I wanted to get done. It's frustrating. So if someone's either in that mindset or they just have something going on that's pretty deep in their life and they need to just get back to enjoying the simplicity of living, but also being on purpose. What is there something you can encourage? Is it mindset
Yeah.
or
I
meditation?
mean, it's literally go do something you've never done before.
Okay.
Go have a new experience because it will release dopamine in your mind. It will
Mhm.
release the good chemicals that's going to make you feel good. Doing and like I mean, I see it all the time. So I run the 365 First Challenge meetup group. Like every time, or when I bring my friends and family to do something new and they
Mhm.
do it and they're done with it, they're so elated, they're so happy, they're so, because that dopamine is getting released, and they're
Yeah.
just so proud of themselves. And like, so right now, in the environment that you're in, the best thing you can do is a craft. Make
Yeah.
something with your hands.
Hmm.
That connection of mind, body, and creating something again will release good chemicals, and it's going to make you feel good. And I have been there. I have been in my basement where I could not trust myself to leave the house because I could plainly not trust myself. I had to lock myself down because I didn't know what I would do. And I know that person, and I know that if I could go back and go spend some time with that person, I would take her out and we would go do something she'd never done before. And
Hmm.
then she would see that life is amazing, and it didn't matter that I was failing, it didn't matter that I was struggling. Like, there was more to life. So
Mhm.
everything about the business, it didn't matter why it didn't get done, it didn't matter that it didn't pan out, because life had other things to offer me. So, I think that's the true, like, that's the
Yeah.
true balance. At least for sure it is for me.
I think that's great. Anyone listening right now, and again, this is going to come out sometime in May. I don't know if we're still going to be in the quarantine. The way it looks right now, as I say this, looks like it's going to be quite some time. So if you're listening to this, hey, I don't care whether we are locked down or whether you're able to go out and do something. You could do something new at home. It could be a craft. You could do something new at home. It could be a YouTube video learning a do-it-yourself, a new meal, cook a new meal for the first time. It could be call someone you haven't talked to in a long time and learn about them, or whatever it might be. You can do it whether you're at home. You can do it whether you're traveling or whatever. Obviously, the big audacious things like flying out of a plane or something like that are going to take, once the quarantine is lifted, we can get out and do some more adventurous journeys and things like that. Um, what I really like to wrap up with, because I always tag my every communication I put out there always has be great and be grateful. What are three things that you're grateful for?
I am grateful for my health. First and foremost, for sure, for my
Yeah.
health. I am extremely grateful for my family, and I'm grateful for who God made me, like, who He created me to be.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I know that I can tell from our conversation so far and just some of our communications that you have a lot of clarity in that, and that's what's providing you strength, a smile on your face right now as we're talking. And I actually made a rookie mistake here. I can't believe I did this. I have it written down in my notebook to mention this right from the beginning of the episode, and I did not do that. Um, you are on Twitter at Ann Bernard. It's ANN Bernard is BERNARD. Again, at Ann Bernard, and Instagram is Ann_Bernard. And people, if you're looking for great insight, she just gave you an hour of, call it. We don't charge people for this, right? We're doing it because we're connecting with people and giving inspiration. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we get out of here?
Yeah, if you go to the 365 First Challenge
Yeah.
website, there's two pop-ups that come up. One is so I create a journal. It's called My Journey of First Time and New Experiences. So what we talked about all the self-development, it's all in that journal. So you can sign up for the
Okay.
journal, and also for a free webinar where I talk a lot more about what this is all about and why you should start this journey and how you can do your self-development through it, and really learn to embrace and maximize what you get from life.
Maximize your potential. So it's a free journal, a free webinar. She just gave you an hour worth of great content. Ann Bernard, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much, Mike, for having me.
Hey guys, super excited to announce that Mike's Warriors LLS fundraiser is now live. The button is active on Facebook. You'll see that when I'm posting, that you'll be able to click on the donate now button. It's also active on my website as well. So if you guys are able to do that, I want to thank you ahead of time for participating and helping out a greater cause. I do want to be mindful, obviously, through coronavirus. Some of us have been compromised in our health. We have a family member or friend that we know that's battling through that right now. Some of us have either lost our jobs or have been working in conditions that we're not used to. So Maybe we lost clients due to this because they had to close their doors. Whatever it might be, I just want you to know that I am mindful of the current situation going on. And I completely respect if you're unable to donate at this time, or maybe you're hesitant to do that. All I ask in that situation, if you're not able to personally give, is if you can share this with your friends and family. Literally share it through social media, or just at the dinner table talk about it. Hey, Mike's doing something for Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and you can get that information in front of more people. That right there is a tremendous help, and I'm grateful for you doing that. If you're able to give a little bit, maybe half of what you were able to do before, whatever it is, we're grateful for it. We can do this $1 at a time. We're going 10 weeks here. The kickoff call last night, there was just so much energy on it that people are overcoming some of the adversity that we're dealing with, and we're helping each other out. And I just see the energy that people have behind Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and also myeloma as well. Did you guys know that 40% of kids that are battling cancer, it's a blood-related cancer? And of those children, right now, if they're in a hospital, they're having limitations, and some not even able to see their parents. I can't even imagine being in that situation. My heart goes out to all the families that are impacted by any cancer, especially blood-related cancers right now, as this campaign is live. So I'm thanking you ahead of time for donating. Anything you can do, $25, $50, $100. If it's more than that, seriously, appreciate everything that you guys are doing to help me. Again, if you donate, also share it. If you're unable to donate, please share this. Extremely thankful for you listening right now, giving me your attention for a couple minutes here. You guys can check out more show notes and information on each episode at mikeduppodcast.com. MIKED uppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.